Let's go to Pearl. Pearl says, I know my next few steps in life came to me via flow and intuition. I don't know what will light me up. Am I in by me or thinking there's a problem when there isn't? No. Um, when it comes to tuning in, and this is a huge byproduct of going through EMF, one source several times because it's a gradient, and you'll get better each time. But when you go through EMF, you essentially learn how to tap into more signal, intuition, gut feel, non-verbal information that comes through, in a non-physical way, and less noise, which is a combination of listening to other people and at the front part of our brain when we're in ego mode. Okay? So if you say I'm receiving information when I'm in flow, that's great, but it doesn't light me up. It's not meant to. It's an instruction that will get you on the path of somewhere that is going to lead you more to your truth, which will light you up. It's not like, oh my God, I just got every time something comes through, I feel it. Now you can feel whether it's true or not for you. You can interpret that through what's relevant for you. But it's designed to get you back on track, especially if you've not been on track for a while. Because most of us get talked into a path that is not our truth. Would you agree? We get either through social pressures, parental pressures, cultural pressures, fear about, I need to do this. So we're being led more by certainty than truth or passion. And a lot of people, especially when they come into this work to start with, come in because they feel they're off track and they don't know how to get on track. But getting on track is not my job, and luckily it's not your job. You were already born with the coordinates. What you need to do is to listen to it. And if you go off track after you've programmed your sat nav, which you did before you came here, it doesn't matter where in the world you are. If I was meant to be going from New York to Los Angeles and I take my car and I fly it over to Dubai, the sat nav's still going to tell me how to get to Los Angeles from there. It's not saying, you're way too off track, I give up. You may be in a profession that has nothing to do with your truth, your joy, your fulfillment, or the reason you were born. But your sat nav is constantly whispering to you the course correction. Some of you know how to hear it, you just don't want to act on it because it's coming from a non-linear perspective and you're still trained to operate on a linear basis. So you don't trust the information. Well, we'll get to that as we move forward. So are you in by me? By me is simply you trying to fix reality physically. Let's just cut it. I mean, you just heard and had a great training on the difference between by me and through me. By me is you. The only thing you can do in by me in the movie of your life is impact the scene you're currently in. That's by me. Through me is ignoring emotionally the scene that you're currently in and associating emotionally to a future scene you would rather be in. And then allowing the steering wheel to guide you as to how to get there without wondering about who builds the roads, who puts up the traffic lights. Because you don't worry about that stuff now. Does that make sense? Cool. Eliana says, Peter, have I understood correctly that the end goal by its very nature should always be defined as a feeling or a state rather than a specific external outcome? And if so, are there any circumstances where this might not apply? I'm going to come back to a phrase that I've used often, and you'll be able to hear this again through different levels of awareness. The only thing you can do as a human being is experience. How do you define consciousness? Consciousness is essentially self-awareness. I'm being very, pragmatic and cutting it down as simple as I can make it. What is high consciousness? It's awareness with less ego. What is low consciousness? You can probably figure it out now. It's awareness with more ego. Yeah? More love, less fear, higher conscious. More fear, less love, lower conscious. Less complicated. Okay? So if all you can do is experience, and the one thing that we were born with as this incredible human being avatar, as an extension of source, the one thing that makes this game work is free will. If you go back into module 1 and go through the Calgary lectures for Tom, and if you rewatch them now, you'll probably hear them from a deeper place. But ultimately, the reason we are here back in lower dimensional reality is so that we can experience through the power of our choices. I mean, when you're oneness, there's nothing else to experience. But guess what? We get to experience what chocolate's like. We get to experience sunrises and morning sex and all sorts of wonderful things that you'd never want to give up as a human being, right? You can't do that in oneness. This is the ultimate experience part. Why do we build theme parks? Fractal expression. We go to theme parks to experience things we don't normally experience in our living room or driving to work. It's created so we have extra levels of experience, because the only thing we can do as a human being is experience. And as you've heard me say, the only thing we can really experience is the act of experiencing. So when we say, do I understand correctly that the end goal by its very nature should always be defined as a feeling or state, it can never be defined as anything else. And what you're going to discover in phase 3 of EMF is that a large part of how we set up the game of our experience with our rules prevents us from experiencing unless we have certain things happen. Yeah. And when we realize that we're consciousness, we can experience anything. That's why virtual realities are so powerful. You put on a headset and go onto a roller coaster on some Oculus meta game, and your body's all over the place. You get motion sickness, even though there's no roller coaster there. Why? Because your senses are being tricked in order to make you experience something. You follow? This is why when it comes to money and abundance, there is no difference to you right now and you with $10 million in the bank, because it doesn't exist. It is a made-up piece of light sent through a fiber optic cable to land in a ledger on something we've labeled a bank that allows us to make choices that we feel good about. Right? Your financial advisor won't frame it now. However, if you had 10 million in the bank right now, how would you feel? Different, which is why you don't have 10 million in the bank. Outer world follows inner world. But we get seduced by our sense data, and we're told and conditioned that we have to go out and do stuff to get money. You don't do stuff to get money. Money doesn't exist. What you have to be is a person in high vibrational abundance that adds value to the world and follows your truth. And the universe will channel in opportunities, meetings, people, that will generate a way that'll give you the feelings of what it's like to have $10 million in the bank, for example. Problem is, some people are so far removed from 10M that they can only create it as a mental construct. They can't feel it. Which is why when we talk about module 8, you've got to be excited enough that it's getting you out of bed, but not so big that you can't associate. Follow? Cool. So, but yes, ultimately, the real game of life, do you want me to sum it up now and then we just like scrap the rest of the modules? Right? Okay, here we go. Shortcut alert. And for some of you, you'll hear this. For some of you, it'll be an intellectual level of understanding. It's, I'm going to share it anyway. If you want the ultimate secret that ties in to making all this work. When you can internally generate the feeling that you think you are going to get with your goal to the point where you no longer need your goal as the permission slip for the feeling, you cracked. And again, as you saw, what will happen is due to the law of balance, the universe itself will have to correct that perceived imbalance between the physical reality, which says there's not a lot of money in the bank, and the biological, emotional reality that your cells have then been conditioned through thought chemicals, creating the internal environment that they have now essentially molded themselves to adapt to, that says, I am abundant and wealthy, and I don't need anything in a freaking bank account to tell me that, because I just know I am, and no one's talking me out of it. That's why I can walk out of prison $250,000 in debt and still feel like $1 million, which is why $1 million finds me after that. And again, I'm not saying this to make it about me. I'm saying this to demonstrate that I'm not teaching from a textbook. I don't have any right to impose that on you. I have every right to share what I know to be true personally and invite you to try it on. But I'm not pulling it out of my ass to say, well, I read this in a book, so why don't you guys go do it? No. I know how the game works because I've lived it. And for some of you, $1 million is too far out. You're still dealing with some parental and childhood influences that says you think you've got to work your ass off for money. You haven't got an effortless relationship to it. Yeah. So when it comes to what's the end goal is always a feeling. So why not skip the whole, I've got to go achieve this goal, climb this mountain, do this thing, have this business, in order for me to then give myself permission to feel what I already know how to neurologically create in my body. Why not neurologically create it now? Give myself permission to enjoy going and doing the goal. What a better way to live. One of the most fun parts of that is your friends will tell you you're nuts.